The update that continues to be the same update, but new updates and variations of the same predictions and so on and so forth. This time it's Diana Rossini, who made it very clear on the Dan Patrick Show that she is not making a prediction, that this is not a report. It is simply a guess. And that guess is on where Aaron Rodgers ends up this offseason, on top of where Russell Wilson, maybe Jameis Winston, Joe Flacco all end up. The Giants are expected to land one of those two. The Minnesota Vikings are expected to land the other. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are left stranded here looking at nothing. Her latest guess on the Aaron Rodgers saga is that it ends in Minnesota with Aaron Rodgers signing with the Vikings. Now, you could look at Mike Florio, who has also said that this could wait months. I watched the Pat McAfee show every single day for the last 2 weeks. I have not turned that from 12 to 3:15 when it ends. My television right there is Pat McAfee show. And anytime something interesting pops up, my head just goes. And then we listen. They even sound like it's no guarantee Aaron Rodgers makes this decision anytime soon. And they feel as if retirement is on the table and waiting it out for a team like the Minnesota Vikings is still on the table. The Pittsburgh Steelers seem to be losing this thing fast. Now, yesterday, I said on this show that the Steelers are confident and still optimistic that they're Aaron Rodgers' best option. But we're going to talk about all of this and how maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers are not anybody's best option at this point in their history or within the NFL or whatever. Maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers have run their course, and the charm that they think that they carry, that guys like Chad Ochocinco is saying that they still do carry, isn't there anymore. Maybe everybody wants to go somewhere else because of different reasons. A couple of those reasons could be very clear. Najee Harris is out here talking about everything when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers and how they are pretty much a second-class organization. They are no longer here. They are not amongst the elite. You can't even come close to the Los Angeles Chargers, Alabama football, wherever he went to high school. Doesn't matter. You are Pittsburgh Steelers and what they've done. Nothing. Justin Fields is over here. And again, we'll get into detail of both of these, talking about why he left, and why he left is because of another coach, not Mike Tomlin. And who's the guy who's constantly bringing people in that we are constantly talking about? That's the reason people would come here. It's Mike Tomlin. Now we're sitting here going, the Pittsburgh Steelers are confident that they have him. They believe Aaron Rodgers is going to sign with them. Cam Hayward's over here saying, we're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You want to come here or you don't? Doesn't matter. We want volunteers, not hostages. It's been a while since the Pittsburgh Steelers have had some volunteers. Some big, splashy, ginormous volunteers. They've had some Russell Wilsons, but we are a year removed, and hindsight being nobody else wanted Russell Wilson. Not that splashy. They got Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields had a different understanding of what was going on here. And I think since then he has become the other side of it, saying the Steelers are not a team that I or many others would love to go to. And now it's Aaron Rodgers going, what sounds better to me? A summer in Latrobe, terrible facilities, a team that can't win a playoff game, a head coach that I have a ton of respect for, but thoughts around the league are less and less that he is this big powerhouse of a head coach that draws people in. Ownership that might not be doing enough for their players and might not even be trying to do enough for their players. A coaching staff that is middle tier most of the time. And they got a guy in Arthur Smith now that you're hoping is turning it around, but you never know. Or does spending a summer in Cabo, spending a summer wherever the highest paid player in NFL history can afford to go for however long he chooses to go, because again, he's the highest paid player in NFL history. And then maybe waiting it out for the Minnesota Vikings or any other team that calls him in August and says, hey, we actually do need a quarterback. We really desperately need you to come. Again, I'll remind everybody, Brett Favre signed in Minnesota in August. And nobody saw it coming, but everybody at the same time did see it coming. Aaron Rodgers right now is something we're all trying to avoid. Public statements are being made. The expectation is now changing from Pittsburgh to Minnesota, getting a little confused or concerning. I would say that. Are your expectations that Aaron Rodgers ends up in Pittsburgh lowering as well, or do they remain the same?
I mean, it's wild that they threw out there a day after the Vikings publicly said, nope, J.J. McCarthy's our guy. A day later, Diana Rossini is saying, it's probably going to be Minnesota. I mean, that just goes to show you that nobody outside of Aaron Rodgers has any idea what Aaron Rodgers is thinking right now. Personally, the way I look at this is Minnesota, if they want to go get Rodgers in August, sure. But it feels like the other two teams, the Steelers and the Giants, are not going to wait that long. It would be horrible for both franchises to wait that long. So if that's what's starting to become the sentiment, then it does feel like Aaron Rodgers is not going to end up on the Steelers because they're going to move on. They're going to have to move on. Eventually, you need to make a decision, and that decision needs to come before the NFL draft. That is the hard and fast deadline. You would hope that we would get a resolution before that, but the longer it goes and the closer we get to the draft, the more realistic it is that Aaron Rodgers is not coming to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I agree. I think the NFL draft is, at least for us, for me, you, and probably everybody else watching the show, is the NFL draft. I don't know if that's the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's where I kind of find myself in this entire situation. Is the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the verge of being the last team without a quarterback. You want to know who this kind of sounds like? It kind of sounds like the Cleveland Browns, where you don't really know who's going to lead that team. You don't know what these answers are. They're just pushing it off and pushing it off and pushing it off and telling everybody the grass is green. We're fine. Flowers are blooming. Everything's good here in Pittsburgh. Nothing's good. Nothing's good. You have no idea what direction your football team's going in. And if it ends up being Russ ends up in New York and the Pittsburgh Steelers are sitting around on April 28th going, we still don't have a quarterback, you now have all the decisions to make from the worst players available. And you have found yourself once again in the wide receiver market. This time it's at quarterback, which could get way worse, which again brings up the big question of whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers are becoming that laughable team in the NFL, that team that does not have the respect factor that I think everybody believes they once had, that I have been pounding the table for months saying that they still have. Well, they are proving me wrong by the day, to be very real. Every single day that this passes, every single day that you look at it more and more and go, the Steelers are being just strung along in this situation. Because if they were the heavy favorites, if it was everybody is on the same page, Aaron Rodgers is coming to Pittsburgh, it's just a matter of when. There's an argument to be made of, yeah, look at, they look like they look a little soft, you know, they look like they're getting drug along here by Aaron Rodgers, that he's playing them like a fiddle a little bit. But at least we all know the outcome of this one. But every time that this goes, you know, Tom Pelissero's report yesterday, how does it end? It ends with, for the time being. I mean, that's not forever. That doesn't say forever. Door is not closed, slightly cracked, pretty close to shut, not shut. Diana Rossini saying she's guessing that he ends up in Minnesota. Every time that stuff happens, it looks more and more like the Pittsburgh Steelers are getting strung, like they're getting fooled, played by Aaron Rodgers. They look worse and worse publicly in this situation. And I get it, the Steelers don't care about their public perception, but maybe they should start. Why? Let's dive into some examples here. We'll start with Justin Fields.
Can I say real quick, as far as the laughable side of this entire thing, I don't think the Steelers will ever become a laughable franchise in the eyes of the NFL. Now, have they lost some respect? Yes. But there's always going to be respect for the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise throughout the league. But it's going to be the respect of like that older guy that can't do it anymore. Like watching Big Ben in his final season is like, man, he used to be great. And we're not going to make fun of him now because he used to be great, but he's not that anymore. And I think that's how the Steelers are viewed right now is, hey, there's respect there because they used to be the premier organization in the NFL. If not the premier, they were top 3 for a long time. Decades upon decades, they were that. I think a lot of people are looking at them now and saying, we respect you, but man, we don't take you as serious as we used to. That's like the old man sitting on the rocking chair saying, you had a good run there, old guy, but that run's a little over. We're just going to leave you in the corner there.
All right, I agree with that.
They won't
Maybe
be the
not.
Browns. That's what I'll say. They won't be the Browns.
I think that
there's always going to be more respect for the Steelers because of what's come before.
I agree with that, depending on who you ask. I agree with that, depending on who you ask. If you ask a head coach, great. If you ask Justin Fields and Najee Harris, they'll tell you otherwise. If you ask anybody who didn't sign in Pittsburgh this year because they looked at it and said, why would I sign with the Steelers? I think they'd, you ask a guy that's 22 years old right now, they don't care about the 6 Super Bowls. They care about the fact that Najee Harris is telling them that Alabama's got better facilities. That's where I think we're headed. But I agree with you. Like, laughable might not have been the word, but old guy in the rocking chair losing respect for them. Their respect's it's lowering. It's definitely lowering.